Somebody left me a comment a few weeks ago asking me if I would do a video sharing what books I have read and gone over on this account. I forgot about it until just now. I'm sorry, but this is that video. I'll do neurodivergent books first because I only have 2 of them. I read Unmasking Autism. I think it would be better for people who aren't brand new to realizing that they are autistic. And then I am something like 3/4 of the way through Women and Girls with Autism Spectrum Disorder by Sarah Hendricks. That one is resonating with me a whole lot. For kind of like modality-based books, the Dialectical Behavior Therapy Workbook, it's obviously a workbook, but it gave me the basics of an understanding of DBT. Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine, he made somatic experiencing. Also, this is a great book for kind of any and all kinds of trauma, but especially a lot on the freeze and fawn responses. I have been reading an ebook called The Haunted Self, which is like the Bible for structural dissociation. It is dense. It is like a legit textbook, but absolutely love structural dissociation. Resonates for me with my cptsd in ways that are even better than other types of parts work. I think I love structural dissociation a little bit more than I love IFS. Adult children of emotionally immature parents, cptsd, emotional neglect, anything like that. Likely your parents at least have some emotional immaturity. The Emotionally Absent Mother book is great on emotional neglect. I also think this is an awesome book for anybody who wants to become a parent. It goes over how our identities and our self-confidence and all these different things. I just think it's a great book for helping you to really understand the critical importance of that early bond and attunement, attachment, etc. The Body Keeps the Score. There's some controversy over this, so Google it if you want to. I personally liked it. I didn't find it to be that much more graphic in their examples than a lot of these other books I've read. Of course, makes the case that our bodies are heavily impacted by trauma. I've heard some people say that they assumed this was for people who had physical or sexual trauma or like war trauma only, and that is not true. It makes a good case for why emotional neglect is really damaging. For Your Own Good by Alice Miller. This book, like, I think about this all the time. It's one of those things where you just kind of see the world a little bit differently. Makes the case for how all kinds of atrocity, including serial unalivers, just like basically literally all the bad things, come back to the mistreatment of young children, which can be like very stereotypical abuse, but also just anything that uses fear, shame, coercive control to control kids' behavior as opposed to like respecting them and treating them like a small human. I'm a little more than halfway done with The Whole Brain Child, but I am enjoying it. It's a really simplified explanation for kind of how our brains work and how our brains are impacted when we have really big emotions. So kind of when we get triggered or melt down, what's going on, and also when we get really rigid and really like control seeking, what's going on. Intended for parents, but it also applies to adults too, and it talks about how you need to understand your own brain so that you can help yourself help your child. Trauma and recovery. Whenever I see people suggest trauma books in TikToks, I'm always disappointed that this doesn't show up more often. I think this should be an absolute staple. Great for CSA, great for any kind of chronic childhood trauma, great for coercive control, domestic violence. Includes an understanding of how society impacts these things, how feminism has played a role, why victim blaming happens and how it correlates with social progress or lack thereof. Silently Seduced, tiny book but packs a big punch. Talks about emotional incest, aka spousification, or treating your child more like a partner. Some people call this enmeshment, some people call it parentification. Emotional incest is really a spectrum. It can include kind of a lot of emotional sexual abuse, a lot of grooming type behaviors, but it doesn't have to include any. It can be like a parent oversharing their financial life, their emotional life with their child. It doesn't have to be sexually charged at all. This is another one that, reading this book, I think about it all the time. I see examples of it around me all the time. Sexual anorexia. This book proposes that sexual anorexia, sexual bulimia, and sexual addiction exist on a spectrum. They all kind of have the same root cause, certain types of trauma, but they're just different ways of coping with sexual shame. So certainly CSA survivors, but also anybody who, purity culture or whatever else has led you to have a lot of shame with sexuality, you'll get something out of this book, but probably especially if you lean towards the side of being afraid of sex or having triggers with sex or being somewhat avoidant of sex or intimacy. It is not the same thing as asexual, by the way. I read the ebook version of Come As You Are by Emily, I think it's Nagowski is her last name. Great for really anybody who didn't have great sex ed, which I don't know if anybody in America had great sex ed, but also super great for CSA survivors or anybody who has difficulty with intimacy, self-pleasure, sexual shame, anything like that. Another that I am currently reading is Healing Sex by Stacey Haynes. Only through chapter 1 on this, but I'm really loving it so far. It is a somatic look at healing CSA trauma, finding ways to be more embodied in sex. Again, feel free to leave any questions. I'm happy to go into more detail. I just didn't want this video to be super long, and I am a long-winded person, so